Materials needed will be some foam, some tissues or paper towels, scissors, white lithium grease, some pliers to get into the cylinder unit, a screwdriver with a Phillips head and possibly a flathead, depending on what you need to do, some Q-tips to clean up some of the smaller areas you can't get to with your fingers, electric tape up top there, Teflon tape in the red, and some Allen wrenches. I'm going to start by taking off the scope here, make things easier to handle. Okay, put that to the side. Now we're going to take our Allen wrenches, make sure you have the right one so you don't strip a screw or anything like that. Okay. There's going to be 2 pins you're going to have to remove, one near the trigger guard and one a little past the mag well. Okay, so put this puppy out. Okay, and for me, I tore up the stock a bit back in the day, so I had to put some tape around the receiver to keep it from warping a little bit there. You can see the Gorilla Glue. So now that we have that off, remove your rubber bands if you have any, and we'll pop this right out. Okay, so now you got this and the stock. Set one thing to the side here. Starting with the stock here, we're going to move from front to back. I'm going to start with the foam. What this does is help dampen the noise of the rifle just a tad. So what we do is we place it along the stock here. We've got a little bit in front of the magazine catch. As you can see, the magazine catch is right here. If you ever lose your magazine catch spring, what you can do is you can add a little bit of a pen spring, cut that up about 4 to 5 coils, and that should do the job. So you got your foam in front there. You got your foam right in front of the body pin, the one in front, the small one. A little bit in front of the trigger guard here. As you can see, this is the trigger guard down here, and here's a little bit of foam to help deal with the noise. This is where the piston actually will be relatively close to around here. When the piston slams forward on the cylinder head, hopefully this foam right here helps dampen the noise just a tad. Okay, and if you ever lose your trigger guard screw, as you can see here, there is no screw. All you got to do is add a little bit of tape, as you saw sitting on here on this rifle back here. Simply add some tape right along here over top of the screw, and that'll keep your trigger guard unit in place, which is what the screw would usually do if you did have it. If you do not have your trigger guard here, and what happens is the trigger box has a spring guide stopper that pops out, and I can actually show you that right now. So here's your spring guide stopper right there. What happens is that'll pop out enough if you don't have this thing in place. What happens is you'll get some slam firing, or your cylinder unit will lock back and you won't be able to move it forward. So you're going to want to make sure that you have this. If you lose a screw, simply put some tape over the top and you'll be good to go. Moving towards the back of the stock here, the last thing we got to go over today. Obviously you can see here this can be removed, and what you'll find in a lot of your clone rifles is a big block of cement or something like that. And what happens is that is supposed to help with the weight and everything, but I took that out and actually installed some foam, just like this stuff right here, same as the stuff in front of the stock, and just kept layering that and layering that all the way up through the stock here, all the way to about right here. Okay, so simply remove this. I'm not going to, simply because it's not really necessary for the video. You might need to take a flathead screwdriver and just pry it off, install your foam, and then you're good to go. Okay, and that pretty much finishes it up with the stock unit here. So let's move on to the outer barrel receiver and hop up unit. Okay, so starting with the trigger box area, we can get this off right away. Got your trigger box, spring guide stopper popping out right there. This is where you want it to be when you have it in the gun, and that's why the trigger guard helps keep it in place. Okay, so we're going to start by doing a quick removal type thing. Now when I say quick removal, all we have to do is simply pry the spring guide stopper out, lift this up right here. Now let me switch hands for the camera, and this should pop right. Use my foot here to help, just like that. Okay, just a quick reminder: spring guide stopper into out, click the bolt up here, bolt handle, pry right out. What this does is helps with quick removal. Obviously we do not need to remove the trigger box to do this, so you don't have to go through unscrewing every time you want to do something with your cylinder unit. Simply clean it or whatnot. As you see, we have the receiver here. What we can do is we can clean this up a bit. Clean that up. So obviously I didn't there, just showing you that you can. And here's our cylinder unit. Okay, so let's take down the cylinder unit. Okay, so now I have both hands free here. All we're going to do is take pliers, put it in these holes, and we're going to twist counterclockwise. Okay, you might be able to tell here we have a Lilacs cylinder head here. So just take that off, and once you get it most of the way screwed off, you can do it by hand a little faster. Here's our Action Army piston. Spring, it's been a while since I replaced the spring a few times, so I'm not exactly sure. It might be a Lilac spring. And here is our spring guide. Okay, so as you can see, we had a little Teflon tape on here, but unfortunately after time that will wear down. So what you're going to want to do here is remove any excess. Well, not necessarily necessary unless you want to redo it totally, so there's going to be a little left over, so that's not a big deal. First off, you want to clean out any grease that you have in here simply with a Q-tip. Mine was pretty clean, so not too shabby. Let's get some Teflon tape going here. Now we got our Teflon tape. Cut off a good bit here. It's a little tricky when you get the wind out here and you're trying to make sure everything gets on camera. Okay, so you're gonna wrap that around. Hands are a little shaky here today. Wrap that around there. As you can see, we got our Teflon tape on our cylinder head here. Now what you can do is add a bit of grease simply to keep the Teflon tape from coming off when you screw it back in. Right where it wraps around, seal it up a bit. Okay? So that's pretty easy. Now we got our piston. Gonna need to clean this up a bit here. Clean around the edges so you can, not sure if you can tell, but there's a lot of grease stuff here, so what we can do is actually take a tissue and clean that off there. Okay. Want to make sure these white things here are nice and tight. They won't come loose usually, but if they do, make sure they're nice and tight up, otherwise you're going to get inconsistent FPS output. Going to put a little in here, clean this up just a bit, and apply just a tiny bit of grease along the edges here for a nice smooth bolt pull. Okay, just a little bit. Doesn't have to be too much. So now we got that done and the cylinder head done. Okay. Now we got our spring guide. Our spring guide is a little messy, as you can see here. We're going to take off the old grease, clean it off, and apply some new white lithium grease. Just a little bit on here for a nice smooth bolt pull. Okay. Doesn't need to be 100% perfect here. And we got our spring guide, or I'm sorry, not spring guide, we just did the spring guide. Now we got our spring, cleaning off any of that old grease stuff. Gonna apply a little bit of some new white grease. Okay? And that pretty much does it for the inside of the cylinder unit. Now we got our Lilacs Teflon cylinder. We're just gonna go in here and clean off a little bit. Move some of the old stuff. As you can see, we got a little bit of dirty grease here. Move that over the side. And we're going to apply some new grease. Take a little with the Q-tip. Oops, sorry about that, camera. Okay, so apply that in there. You should be good to go. Now our cylinder unit is good to go. Next up, we're going to move the outer barrel and hop-up unit away from our trigger unit, just so we can clean things and move it around a bit more easily. Okay, so put that to the side. Got our trigger unit. The one thing you're going to want to do is put a little grease on the inside where the spring guide stopper and piston sear are. Okay, so put a little something in there. Just put it right inside where the piston sear and the spring guide stopper are to help with preventing wear. Nice smooth transformation back and forth with the trigger unit. Okay, as you can see here, we have a cylinder guide ring which helps prevent, which helps with a tight bolt pull. If it's too loose, what happens is you get slam firing. So you want to stick that back in there like that, okay? One other thing you're going to want to do before you put your cylinder unit back in, obviously with all the parts inside, just put a little on the outside here for a nice smooth bolt pull. Okay? And the Laylax Teflon cylinder is already very smooth, but a little grease on top wouldn't hurt. So now you got all this in here. One thing you're going to make sure of to prevent slam firing is to take the the screws that hold the cylinder unit in place. Actually, this one's too big. The other one was perfect sized. It's been a while since I've done this. Make sure these are tight. If these are not tight, that one's nice and tight. If they're not tight, what happens is you will get slam firing. This one in here is a little loose. Not sure if you can see it from there. So you're just going to want to tighten that a bit. Personally, I think the design of the trigger here is a little weak due to the fact that you have to stick your Allen wrench screw here all the way inside there just to tighten it. Okay, so it's a little odd, I would say, why they put it right there, unlike the Type 96 rifles, which have it sticking out a bit, which makes it easy to take in and take out. There's a bug on my foot. Get out of here, bud. Okay, so now we got this all nice and clean. Now we can start putting everything back together. Okay, I'm gonna start with your spring guide. Make sure to put a little blue Loctite on this part. This part actually unscrews from this. Make sure to put a little on there. That way it stays nice and tight. If it's not tight, you might get a little problem with your bolt pull. Okay, so we're going to stick this spring in. Make sure the spring goes in the spring guide here. If it doesn't, you will get some major problems with your rifle. Just stick that in there. Now you got our piston. Got to wiggle it around a bit. Make sure the O-ring slides right in. Don't want it to get stuck on the side. Clean the O-ring on top just a bit. Stick your cylinder head on here, so it might go off camera for a few seconds, but what I'm doing is taking the cylinder head, placing it right over top, making sure the O-ring isn't getting jammed. It's nice, delicate. There we go. Now she's sticking in like that, okay? And now we twist clockwise. And some of the Teflon tape may or may not come off. Now we got that nice and tight. Got a little Teflon tape here sticking out. We will go through, remove that. Okay. So there's a little left over that will fall off. Not a huge deal. Does not affect performance. Got a nice seal. Ooh, rip my tissue there. Just make sure one more time that it's tight. Good. And clean off the head. The head goes actually into the hop-up bucking, so you want to make sure that's clean. If it's all greasy, it means your hop-up bucking is going to be greasy, okay? And now we can do the basic part here. Now we stick this back in. Now, you'll notice it won't go in, okay? It's not going in. All you got to do is click the trigger unit, moves the sear around, and this goes right down. Notice this popped out again. You don't want to lose this. There are replacements available, but if you can help it, don't want to lose it, okay? So now we got that set up. We can put that to the side. Move on to our hop-up unit.